Hi everyone, Ashley here and welcome to another video on the Penguin Palace Stamps YouTube channel. Today I'm sharing this card using the Never Give Up stamp set from Penguin Palace Stamps, and this is one of their new Spring 2020 release stamp sets. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm starting by stamping out a custom sentiment, and for this I'm using an alphabet die set. This is from another company, I believe the Ink Blot Shop. So how I did this was I first cut out a piece of white cardstock using the new Penguin Palace die set, the Dots Meets Dashes Rectangle Overlays dies. And this just cuts out the nice rectangle shape with a really pretty stitched pattern along the edges in a dots and dashes combination. So I took some blue ink and I'm just stamping out the letters one by one along some lines that I drew out in pencil. So I just took a ruler and drew out some pencil lines to make sure I can stamp out my letters straight in the straight lines. And I knew that I wanted 3 lines of the sentiment. So the top line will be I like, and then the middle line will be the way, and then the bottom line will be you, and then I'm going to cut out big letters to say roll. So you can see it coming together, just stamping out the sentiment one letter at a time in that blue ink until I have I like the way you. And then when the sentiment is all stamped out, I can come in with an eraser and just erase those pencil lines so that you never even know that they were there. And this way you can get a nice straight sentiment just stamping it by hand without having to worry about seeing the pencil lines at the end. So I just go ahead and erase them all. I'm just being a little bit careful to make sure not to erase over the ink because it still might be a little bit wet, and in the past when I've done this it smudges a little, so it's best just to try and stay away from those letters but just erase around them. Off camera I went ahead and die cut that word roll out of some letter dies, and you'll see that later. For now, I'm going ahead and stamping the images from the stamp set. Again, this is the Never Give Up stamp set. It's a new one from Penguin Palace Stamps for this season, Spring 2020. And I'm just stamping them onto some white paper with some black ink, and this is Copic friendly ink. I'm stamping them twice just to make sure I get that nice, clean, crisp black image so that I can color them in. So I'm going to go ahead and color in these images with my Copic markers, and for each of them I'm just using my typical Copic coloring technique, where if you watch any of my videos before, you know I kind of do the same thing every time, where I just take a darker shade and a lighter shade and blend them together, which works really well, especially for these small images. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video here. Feel free to sit back, relax, and enjoy the coloring. If you don't want to watch the coloring, then also just feel free to skip ahead in the video, and I will be back when we're ready to finish with the card. Okay, so I finished with the coloring, and off camera I went ahead and die cut all of the images using the coordinating dies that come with this stamp set. Now it's time to put the whole card together. So I went ahead and used the biggest Dots Meets Dashes rectangle die to cut out a background pattern for the card. So I'm just gluing it down with some liquid glue onto a white card base. And this is just a really pretty red pattern paper with some stars that I had in my stash. So I'm really pressing that down to make sure it's nice and glued down to the card base. And then I'm going to use some foam to pop up that card panel onto the middle of the card front. So I'm just using some double-sided tape on the foam here and adhering it to both sides of the fun foam. And then when I'm done that, I can take off the release paper from the tape and use that to adhere one side down onto the card base and the other side onto the card panel, and just have that foam sandwiched in between. So So the fun foam is a really good way to give a nice even layer of dimension, unlike if you had, say, foam squares behind it and you had the spaces in between with some sagging. The fun foam just elevates the entire card panel evenly, which is really nice. So I'm just sticking that down to the card front and making sure it's nice and lined up straight. And then I can adhere that roll word onto the front as well. So like I said, I cut this out using some alphabet dies, just the letters R, O, and then 2 L's. And I did that in the same pattern paper as I used for the border, so that red pattern paper with the stars on it, and I like the way that it matches. I'm just adhering each letter on with some liquid glue and kind of putting them a little bit wibbly wobbly looking, almost like the letters had been themselves rolling around a little bit, which I thought was really fun. I'm then taking my images and sort of placing them on the card. I kind of wanted to just sort of squish them in around the sentiment, like they're all there, kind of just having a little bit of a party or something. So I spent a little bit of time just placing them where I wanted. And once they were in positions that I liked and that I was happy with, I'm able to take some foam squares and place each little image down on the card front so that it's a little bit elevated. And I like doing this because it adds a little bit of extra dimension to those images and a little bit of extra interest to the card. So for each image, I can just take a little foam square, put it on the back, then remove the release paper and put that image exactly where I want it using my craft tweezers. So I'm just finishing up with that last image here, which is that little cute pack of curry sauce with a little face on it. And at that point, all the images are taped down. So just as a final little embellishment for this card, I took some little silver sequin stars, I think these are from Derice, and I just glued them down all over the card front with a little dab of liquid glue. And I really liked that these stars kind of matched the pattern paper, so the pattern paper has little stars on it, and now there's little stars on the card front too, so that's why I picked them, and I think that they look really cute, and they add a nice level of metallic shimmer to the card as well, which I think is really fun. So that is the card for today. It's pretty simple, but I like that it has that big standout custom sentiment in the middle, which I think makes it really fun. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more of my cards, definitely head over to my Instagram account, which is linked down in the description box below, as well as Penguin Palace's Instagram account too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!